Should be live?
And we're live.
Amazing.
As long as I didn't forget how to do that, which I think after a year I've finally kind of figured out.
There's always a wrinkle.
There is always a wrinkle. All right, it looks like I'm live though. You guys, if you're here, let us know. Let us know how's it going. How's your Friday? Happy January 31st. We're almost finished with what feels like the longest month of the year to me. Actually, I don't know. It's January or July. What's the longer month?
Oh, it's definitely January.
Is it?
The just dreary gray that just doesn't go away. And you're like, man, why 31 days? Can we make January the 28th?
28. I like that idea.
And like
February.
February. Yeah. At least there's love in February. Like January, man.
Well, and you usually get like a February thaw.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like a week or two in February almost every year, at least in Utah.
Yeah.
That is like, I don't know. It's like you get like 50 degrees, 50, maybe even 60 if you're lucky. And it's like, oh, okay, all right. And then it goes back to winter for like another
fall
6
spring.
weeks or whatever. But yeah, I like the February thaw.
All right, we are getting chat. Hey, chat, how's it going?
Hey, everybody.
People are coming in.
Okay, tell me this. How's the sound? Because I know that a lot of the times, like, I am okay and you're too quiet. So we made Dallin a little closer to the mic.
This time.
So I'll just be quiet. Dallin, you say some things.
Hello, how are you lovely people doing today? Does this sound okay?
Maybe you just have a quieter voice than me.
I don't know.
Maybe
I feel
I'm just.
like I'm loud.
I think I'm louder.
It might be. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel like when we have a conversation, I feel like I'm the loud one, but also like I'm hearing it in my own skull, like bouncing around.
Sure.
So like, of course, I think I'm louder. I don't know.
Okay, people are saying he's fine. Cool.
He's low.
Oh,
Sounds
just kidding.
pretty good. He's low. Okay,
He's low.
I will get as close as I can. Is this any better?
No, but you get closer, but then you lower your voice. So that's like.
I don't want to blow anybody's ears off, you know? I'm so, like, conscious about if you have headphones on and you're at work and I just come in here, I'm like, and like,
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin your day.
Well.
It's supposed to be a lovely, calm discussion.
Yeah, this is like my favorite day of the month. So the stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate. I need to get, so I'm just on Wi-Fi up here on my laptop, and my router is kind of far away. It's in the basement. So I need to get like a range extender thing.
Yeah.
I actually have one. I just haven't set it up yet. So hopefully when I go live in the future, we won't get pixely, laggy stuff.
Oh, we were sort of talking about this, like kind of like right as we were going live. It has nothing to do with the internet connection. Just got me thinking, like, where's Daniel Green in these chats? Where is he? I have so many. I want to pick his brain about Stormlight.
So, okay. For those who know, Daniel Green of Fantasy News fame, he and I actually have been chatting, and we are going to be doing a collaboration video in February.
That is
sometime.
amazing.
At least that's our stated goal. We still don't know what we're going to do. I've thrown out lots of ideas. We've talked about just like talking about Brandon Sanderson stuff, which I don't, well, anyway, he does plenty of that, so he's probably not that interested. I'm like, we could do like a character build, and I could like do the mechanics, and you could like write the backstory, or maybe give the explanation for why this character is multi-classing from paladin into rogue, or whatever, something like that. He's talked about, he's a big cyberpunk fan, the RPG, like the tabletop RPG. And he's like, we could like do something with cyberpunk. I'm like, yeah, if you want to like teach me how to play, or or something, or maybe we do like a one shot and like bring some other people in. That could be fun. I'm like, honestly, I would be happy to just like turn on the camera and just like shoot the breeze for an hour, you know what I mean? And just like,
he seems like a really cool dude.
Yeah.
Like you could easily just spend an hour not even realizing the hour has gone by.
Yeah.
Just talking.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's an awesome guy. And fun and funny and all those things.
We're getting some comments saying, why don't you have good internet?
Why don't I have good internet? Because I do, like, my internet's actually decent. It's just I'm far away from the router.
Yeah.
Is the real problem. So I will fix it. My goal will be to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. I'm gonna get that range extender set up, and then I think it will really help.
Boom.
So.
Who are we talking about? We're talking about Daniel Green.
Daniel Green. Fantasy News is his YouTube channel, right? Fantasy Reviews, Fantasy News.
I think it's just Daniel Green, but that is like his big segment on his channel. Let's see. We've got Steven Saul says, "Great to see you guys. Let's get this party started. Let's go."
Thanks
for
Steven.
the hundo.
Appreciate it. Okay, yeah. Why don't we?
Return of sliding into my DMs? Question mark.
That's
a throwback.
Yeah, what's the word? That's a deep cut.
That is a deep cut.
So for those who don't know, like the first thing that I did on this channel that wasn't character builds was a thing that we called sliding into my DMs, where I would talk to my DMs about like rules questions and like advice and stuff like that. And we kind of did that for a while. It was a good year or more, I think, that we were doing that. And at first it was just us. And then we'd have Preston come in and other people, Corey, like I'd have like a rotating thing, you know. And we thought it was really clever. I thought it was really clever and funny because it's like sliding into my DMs, but it's Dungeon Masters. But then people started making really inappropriate like innuendos about sliding into people. And I was like, all right, fine. And it did the same thing. Like for those who caught my video that I did like a week ago about D&D YouTube isn't actually dying.
Yeah.
And I talked about like splitting the audience, right? Which I experienced with Pathfinder and BG3 and now with 2014 and 2024 rules. Like that was actually the first thing that I experienced that with. And I'm like, like I've got a lot of people who are tuning in for the character builds,
right,
and then a much smaller percentage tuning in for the sliding into my DMs conversations. And then it was almost like YouTube didn't know what to do with my videos because they're like, they'd show it and like not very many people would click on it. And then the next like character build video that I'd have, they'd be like, well, not very many people clicked on that last one. So like, we're not going to give this one as much exposure.
So your impressions would go down.
So impressions go down, and then I'm not getting as many views. And because we were doing Tales of Veneria on the channel at first. Like we'd do an actual play that we'd record and we released, you know, on the channel. And again, same thing. It was just like, not everybody is tuning into those things. Most people are here for the character builds, right? And so I decided to just like get rid of all that stuff. Yeah. And we'd made a separate channel for the Tales of Veneria, which was fun, and I think it's still going. We're not playing with those guys anymore.
As far as I know, it is. I don't know like how regular the like episodes are
posts.
or anything. I'm not sure. I haven't really been too close to it.
Yeah.
But speaking of Tales of Veneria, we actually have a question about Tales of Veneria. So we might as well let's just go right to that.
Sure.
So from the Discord, we have Daniel from Relaxed Fantasy Review.
Okay.
Saying, I'm going to be starting my first watch through of Tales of Veneria shortly. Any spoiler light memories you could share about it?
Yeah, I mean, without spoiling things, I really loved my character for my first character, Sarah Dawn. And I was really pleased with the way that Corey would integrate. Like he's really good at like being one of those kind of DMs that would say, okay, tell me about your character and like let's work together to like do something cool. And like he would like give me your backstory, and then he would find something from the backstory to like put into the story that like maybe you'd run into later, like that kind of thing. And so he had a lot of really cool moments with like I was a warlock. You know what? This is not a segue, but I'm working on a build right now, a script that is maybe kind of a Ceradon 2.0 or a Pally Warlock Bard 2.0, the Lockett Bard, which is what I based Ceradon on. Anyways, right now, so that might be interesting for those who saw that video or knew about that character. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was cool. It was really fun the way that like my patron got worked in and really changed the character, changed the story.
It changed the world.
The patron itself like went through some changes, which was cool. Yeah, that was maybe the most memorable thing about that. And that time that I one shot the boss. What was that boss? It was some.
It was like a.
It wasn't. It was the fight with the T-Rex.
Yeah, and there was like a frog thing.
It was some big boss fight, some elaborate set piece fight that I like had enough. Like I had a Paladin Smite and an Eldritch Smite and a Potion of Speed.
Yes.
I had popped a Potion of Speed and I just ran like 100 feet and just like like smite, and just like killed Corey's boss. And you could see him, to his credit.
Yeah.
He kind of was like, but like at the same time, I think he went, okay, that's actually really cool.
Like the power fantasy is still part of the fantasy of the game.
And he just let me have that moment. And actually, like it was a great death scene. Like the boss mob, I remember he was just like, "You puny mortal," like blah blah blah, and then he was just like dead. And I was like, yeah, that was so awesome.
So good.
So anyways, that was fun. I don't know. What about you?
Oh man, there was a lot of good moments, I think, in that one. I think without going too much into spoilers, my character had some pretty intense changes in that campaign. And it was mostly because I started playing an Arcane Archer and about, a handful of sessions in went, this is terrible.
I tried to dissuade him. For the record, we sat down and we talked about it, and I was like, okay, this could be good, but like you got to do this thing and these things and these things, and you were like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna. Well, you did a little bit actually. You followed some advice, but I think you were reasonably. I think like, well, I don't want to just like build like this thing that you've built for me. Like I want this to be my character.
This is why we're friends. We kind of sort of challenge each other's ideas. To an extent. And like you're right, playing it your way would have been way more powerful.
I mean,
but
it's still an Arcane Archer.
I'm a headstrong person who wants to build an Arcane Archer, and I know it's gonna suck, and I'm gonna enjoy it anyways until I didn't.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, you know what? And Corey was gracious enough to like work it into a backstory moment. And it also sort of changed the world
it did.
in a big way.
It did. There was some cool stuff around you switching characters, but not switching characters.
It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, Steven says, I just remembered I missed last month, so here's another 100 to make up for it.
Oh, Steven.
Keep my streak alive.
You're the best. Thanks, you.
Man, the GOAT. Oh, all right.
Yeah. No, more questions?
Yeah, let's go into some more questions. We'll go back over to Discord. We've got, will you be reevaluating older gimmick builds and make them work with the new rules?
That's a good question. I get a lot of this in the regular video comments too. I definitely like want to revisit some old builds, whether gimmick builds or otherwise. But I kind of feel like there's still so many things with 2024 that like are feel a little more interesting to me, and a lot of subclasses that I haven't done like a build around necessarily, like a dedicated kind of more focused build like for this subclass kind of thing. Those feel a little bit higher on the to-do list for me still. Also, though, I think sometimes I almost kind of inadvertently will find myself recreating older builds. Like for example, the one I just mentioned that I'm working on right now, it's mostly a Devotion Paladin. You guys probably know this if you're in the Discord, because you've seen I've been asking for help naming this one recently. It's mostly a Devotion Paladin with a little Warlock, and spoiler alert, I guess, probably some Whispers Bard levels. And as such, it is very close to like the Lockett Bard video that I have. It was early in the channel. I feel like that one was number 27 or something like that, that I ended up using for Ceridon. And so I didn't set out to do Lockett Bard 2.0, but it's basically Lockett Bard 2.0.
Kind of just became that.
And so I think I'm probably gonna see that happen a lot of times. Like right now, for example, I'm really interested in trying to do like a sorcerer Gish, like a sorcerer who is either doing weapon attacks or maybe touch spells, And I think as a result, it might, I don't know yet, but it might end up being like the Sorcerer with the Magic Touch, which was kind of the first like gimmicky kind of concept first build that I ever did. And so like I'm not necessarily setting out to create, Sorcerer with the Magic Touch 2.0, but I think that might end up happening just based on, how I build it. So anyways, that was a long answer to a short question, which is what I always do. But
welcome to D&D Laws.
Yeah. I think that I will eventually, I'd love to redo the Thornlock, for example, or, whatever, other things like that. But they still don't feel super high on the to-do list. It's like I want to do a more thorough treatment of especially the subclasses that we have with 2024, the ones that I haven't gotten to yet. And like, cool, fun, potentially powerful ideas. A dual wielder ranger is high on my to-do list still. I still haven't done it. But I feel like it could be really good, but other things keep like coming before it in what I'm interested in. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah. So I'll probably get to a lot of them, I think, eventually.
Perfect. Nick Can't Snipe in chat says, I just one-shot the boss with your ultimate smiter build today.
Oh, nice.
With the bugbear. I saw my DM's jaw drop. That's awesome.
That, you know what? That kind of surprises me because I still am holding the opinion that like Nova damage in general is a lot softer in the 2024 rules. So good to know that like there's still some potential out there. And yeah, the big, the big challenge I think right now for me is like, because I haven't done many burst builds, and I don't know that I'm gonna do. I'm sure that I won't do as many under 2024 as I did under 2014, right? And one of the challenges that I think about when I think about should I try and do a burst build is, can I not be bugbear? And like you can, but man, like it's harder. Yeah. It's a lot harder, right? It's like it's so much easier to like get a bunch of attacks, and on the first round you get an extra 2d6 on every single attack, and like everything else is almost like secondary to that as far as like the damage potential. You know what I mean? So, anyways.
Yeah. Space Gardener in chat says, I will say gimmicky or themed characters are my favorite of your builds.
Oh, thanks. They're a lot of fun to create and a lot more time consuming as well. Because, I mean, generally speaking, because they tend to require like just a lot more sort of digging and sort of thorough, okay, like what am I missing? Like, is there a touch spell that I'm not thinking about? I got to go through and like look at every single touch spell. Or is there a spell or an ability or a feature that returns damage when you get hit? Like I got to find all of those that exist in the game and then think about, okay, how can I put this into one build? You know what I mean? It's just, it requires like, and I feel like I'm more likely to forget something or miss something that would have really worked well with the build too. So anyways.
Okay, we got a question over from Discord from David Mass. Do you think the new CR system is better than it was?
I want to say yes, but I'm not sure that yes is the right answer. I think I will say that monster difficulty per challenge rating has increased. Oh, that reminds me. Check this guy out. Monster Manual. This is actually yours.
Oh, what?
They send me two. They send me two copies.
I know. And so one always finds its way to me.
I know. So I've got the special edition. I decided to keep this one for myself.
Of course.
So that's the Mind Flayer, right?
That is beautiful.
But otherwise, the books are exactly the same. I'm just a little mad because they didn't, for whatever reason, when they sent me the Player's Handbook, I didn't get the special edition of the Player's Handbook. So now I've got the special edition Dungeon Master's Guide, the special edition Monster Manual, and then just the regular. And this is like this book is awesome, you guys. This live video is not sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, but this book is really good. Like the art alone is just, it's phenomenal.
Oh, man, that's
the Horned Devil.
great.
And is that a what is this one over here? A Hydra. Check out that Hydra. Anyways, sorry, that was a little distraction.
Yeah, special editions look nice. Special editions are so much nicer. Special looks amazing. Yeah, spoilers on graphics. Yeah, sorry.
The difficulty for the challenge rating, generally speaking, has increased. Sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it feels big. And if you haven't watched, like, the Dungeon Dudes did a video like on how players will die now, like there are some really. I was just reading the there's an ooze. It's like a world ender ooze or something like that, and it's just like, how would you kill this thing? In fact, as I was perusing the monster manual this morning, I was having this thought, and I was like, how, I kind of want to build a character that's sort of designed to take on this monster, because, like, it's so potentially difficult. Blob of Annihilation. Oh my gosh. Look at the Blob of Annihilation. It's so nasty. It's a CR23 monster, and it just, like, I mean, it's resistant to tons of damage types. It's got, all the actions, the attacks that it does. Like, everybody is just going to be restrained, like, all the time. As soon as the fight starts, like, everybody's restrained and getting devoured. It's like, how do I beat this thing? And I've thought, like, I wonder if it would be interesting to do builds, and maybe even a build series. Sorry, can you hear the dog? The dog's barking downstairs. Somebody must have knocked. Would it be interesting to do a build that's like how to kill the Blob of Annihilation, and the build is sort of just designed, maybe it's a single character, maybe it's like a party that's like designed to take down the Blob of Annihilation, and another one for the Tarrasque, and another one for the high, like, CR20 and up monsters.
And then you could sort of build to, like, counter some of their have a character that's like, this character gets rid of this crappy thing that they can do to you.
I thought it might be fun. It might not be super useful. Like, I don't know that anybody goes into a campaign like just in case we fight a Blob of Annihilation, like, this is how I'm going to build my character. It's like, well, is it any good otherwise? Like, so I've thought about that, but let me know.
The CR20 Avengers.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, maybe it's a little what's the word I'm looking for? Like, series, a little playlist, right, of like how to kill X series of videos. I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but so wow, I still haven't answered the question. The
What was the question?
The difficulty per challenge rating is better. The encounter builder itself might not necessarily have gotten a lot better, because while the difficulty per challenge rating has gone up, if I'm not mistaken, so has the XP, or like the way that they budget in the encounter builder is based on XP, and it almost feels like you might end up with kind of the same level of difficulty if you follow Wizards of the Coast guide for like how to build encounters.
Right. So they buffed one thing, nerfed another, and it kind of became a wash.
Well, yeah, or it's almost like they've lowered the, how do I say that? They've lowered the budget
while increasing
to consider something deadly, you know what I mean, or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see, but yeah, the monsters, and especially those high CR monsters, are definitely a lot tougher, and it'll be fun to play with, and we need to like do a one shot soon and play with that. So anyways,
got a question from Pearly Gatekeeper. Colby, you have a really cool spreadsheet with features, feats, spells, etc., all organized in interesting ways, or do you all just have it memorized?
I don't use anything other than D&D Beyond as far as like where to get info. So yeah, I don't have any sort of database that I've been accruing other than, I guess, in my head and what's already available. I think that just, and yet I still make mistakes all the time. Like pretty much every video, like I say something wrong, or I forget to mention something, or I didn't think about something that would have made the build even better if I would have added it. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
There you go. We've got Zerode over in Discord has a question for you. And this is going to steer the conversation a little video gamey. So
Okay.
get ready to put that hat
It's okay.
on. All right, Colby, have you played Marvel Rivals yet? And if so, do you have any ideas off the top of your head for a D&D build inspired by Jeff the Shark? Don't even get me started on that. Some character who can either A, swallow, incapacitate enemies and move them around, or B, use some kind of burrowing-like mechanic defensively. I was thinking a bit about trying to cast a silent image of water surface 2 feet off the ground and sneaking around beneath it, but I don't know.
Huh.
Dot, dot, dot.
That is a very specific question. My son is obsessed with Marvel Rivals and plays as a father way too much, and I'm constantly arguing with him about how much time he's spending on that game. He's ranked right now. He's working his way through platinum, if I'm not mistaken. I have like started up the game and played around a little bit with like just like there's like a test mode that you can go into to like play
versus
with the
the AI or
characters
whatever.
and like figure out what they do and stuff like that. But that's it. Dallin a few weeks ago sent a message to me and to Preston and like, we got to play Marvel Rivals. I'm like, okay, let's go. And then nobody could play.
And then welcome to being a parent
Yeah.
and a man in this world. who's
So-
gonna have a 9 to 5. And, yeah.
So we haven't returned, but I'm interested. As far as the question about building a character who can burrow and sit on top of people's heads and heal them or whatever it is that character does, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's spells like Move Earth. There's class features that will let you like move through things, but as far as like ingesting them and moving, like you got to be a druid. You got to be a giant toad or or something that will do that. And speaking of, I've got a moon druid build that's coming out. Not this week. I know that earlier this week I did the like best beasts for us to wild shape into. I figured I'd take a 1 week break between that and like the moon druid build. So this next Tuesday, we're talking about the Ill Rigger, the MCDM Ill Rigger, but I'm not yet doing an Ill Rigger build. I'm actually interviewing people from MCDM that were the ones who built the Ill Rigger, and it's not surprisingly Matt Colville. It is people on his team who were mostly in charge of like creating, balancing, all that kind of stuff. It was his baby. It was his brainchild, and he was involved, I think, in the original version of the Ill Rigger. But in this latest iteration, it seems like he was a little bit more like consultative in the Ill Rigger's design and development. So, anyways, I'm interviewing a couple other people from the team, and it's really cool. So, if you're interested in that, hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, chat seems excited about that. Ill Rigger! I can't wait for this video. And
Yeah.
I can't wait. So I think, yeah.
I'm
awesome.
I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to do an Ill Rigger build. Historically, builds for third-party stuff have not done well on the channel, with one exception, being the Monty and Kelly's Gishmonk. It's the way of the
Something palm?
No, it's the Arcane Hand. The Arcane Hand monk.
That's the one.
That one did really well. I think because I put Kelly and Monty on the thumbnail is the main reason.
Everyone's like, ooh.
But
Dungeon
yeah,
Dudes.
exactly. They're like, wait a second, this isn't the Dungeon Dudes. Well, it kind of was. I was in Toronto when we recorded that together, I guess. So whatever. Point is, I'm not sure if I'm going to do an Ill Rigger build yet. It will probably largely depend on how this interview video that I post performs, frankly.
This is like a first for your channel, if I'm not mistaken, of doing like an interview style.
With like the devs.
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, I guess you could say that when I did the monk stuff with Kelly and Monty, I was actually in their studio in Toronto, and I made the build and sort of presented it to them on camera, you know what I mean? And so there was definitely like a little bit of like, yeah, you know, when we designed that feature, we thought blah 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 kind of stuff going on in there. But yeah, this is really pretty much just like a talking to them about the class, about how it works, like an overview of the subclasses, stuff that I thought was really cool, what inspired this, tell me like the lore that about the world that these Illriggers inhabit, kind of thing. It's a little less crunchy and mechanical, though we do get into mechanics. So yeah, we'll see. And I really like the class and the subclass. They're basically, for those who don't know, they're basically they're a, I don't want to say evil, but kind of an evil paladin. They're sort of they're a knight of hell. And so they've got some pretty cool
inner berserk.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, oh man, that just sounds
You'd
right
love
up
it.
my alley.
And some of the subclasses look really cool. They've got some fun mechanics, and some that feel super powerful. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Treant Monk has interesting insight here. He
Hey,
says,
Chris.
I suspect what inspired the Illrigger was the Illrigger from Dungeon Magazine back in the late 80s.
I'm sure you're right.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I'm sure that was probably Matt's initial inspiration, right? He's old school.
That's cool. All right, we've got Ash Kingy from Discord says, as an optimizer, what are the known 2024 rules as written exploits / broken combos you tend to avoid?
Well, okay, read that question again.
So, as an optimizer, what are the 2024 rules as written exploits / broken combos you tend to avoid?
I mean, the only one that right now that just really stands out that I just am still frustrated by is Conjure Minor Elementals. That to me is sort of the most egregious, that really bothers me. And yet I still crunch numbers for the Moon Druid, just like, let's see at least what it looks like if we use the spell. I still am slightly flabbergasted that made it live as is. Beyond that, there hasn't been a lot that I'm really like, this is broken, or I guess I've talked about some of them. Things like, Warcaster supposedly letting you like cast a buff spell on your friend as they run past you, like whether it's a heal or haste or whatever. I really don't think that was intended. I could be wrong. I'm sure some of you disagree with me, which is fine. So that kind of annoys me. There's some other, I guess, little things, but yeah, not a lot that just makes me go, oh, like, I hate this so much, or this is so broken. Maybe another one that stands out is the Cleric's, level 10 feature that lets them cast a spell, right, with the casting time of an action, and lets them essentially, give everybody vulnerability to damage. As you saw in that one shot that Chris and I and Pack Tactics did quite some time ago, right? With who was that with? Insight Check? I can't even remember whose channel that was on now. I feel bad. I think it was, right? It was Jeremy? Chris? Wasn't it? Anyways, I've done a lot of one-shots lately. But yeah, so those are maybe the two bad ones that stand out to me. I'll have to go watch more Pack Tactics videos to remember the other ones.
Chris says it was Inside Check.
Okay,
so
thank you.
We've got verification.
Yeah, anyways. Well, are there others that are standing out? Not really. But I'm sure they exist, and I'm just not thinking about them.
Sort of on a similar train of thought, what's a character concept that you would love to play in D&D, but feel like you can't really make this type of character with the rules as they are? If there even is one. This is from Log In. Over on Discord.
Logan, you've stumped me, because I wouldn't say something from a third-party fiction that I want to like recreate in D&D. That just doesn't really appeal to me or interest me that much, as a lot of you guys know. So yeah, like a character concept. I really can't think of one that I'm like, gosh, I really wish I could play this kind of character, but like the mechanics just don't exist. And maybe that speaks to my lack of imagination, or or it speaks to the potential power of the system, or I don't know.
I mean, I think you could basically build whatever you wanted. It's just a level of like, is it going to hit the numbers you want? Because like, I'd love to build like a Castlevania-esque, like using a whip and some blades and whatever. But it's like, like I just don't know that without heavy massaging, like I could get something like that.
Well, I think on the one hand, like flavor is free, as people say, and of course that depends on your DM, right? But I think it's pretty easy to be like, I don't know. Like for me, for example, I really like the idea of a monk who like just uses their body as their weapon, right? And I don't want to be using a short sword and a scimitar as a monk. I just want to be punching and kicking stuff.
Right.
But, it's fairly easy to have a conversation with a DM and say, hey, can I just have like fist wraps that are basically like, this is a scimitar and this is a short sword, and like maybe this one has little spikes on it or something like that, and functionally like it can still, like I can still be disarmed from it. If somebody casts heat metal on it, it's going to burn me, like, functionally exactly the same, but just like in my head, like the fantasy that I have here is that like my body is a weapon. And so between that and like the variety of mechanics that exist in the game, you are right though. I think sure you could say I have a fantasy of a character who does X, Y, or Z, uses this certain weapon, does these certain things, and I want it to be really good and really strong and really powerful. Okay, maybe in that case you could go, yeah, like, getting back to the sorcerer with the magic touch, right? I love the idea of a character who can cast powerful magic, but like there's something inherent in their body that like it's Rogue from X-Men, right? Like if I touch you, like bad things are gonna happen. But like I have to touch you. I can't be shooting. I don't like, that's just not how my magic works.
Right.
And so that concept is really cool, and you can make it work in D&D, but are you going to be topping the damage charts? Probably not. Not without a little homebrew massaging from your DM, and or being able to say, okay, when I cast Fireball, it's just got a range of touch. Now you're intentionally sort of like nerfing yourself, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Good question.
We've got another question from Warlock Blitz in the chat, and this one like jumps out because we were sort of talking about this. We went and had lunch before we did this, and any plans for BG3 builds with the new subclasses when patch 8 drops?
That is a good question, and it's a tough one because I'm confident that if I took the time to make more Baldur's Gate 3 videos, that they would perform well for the channel. It would probably be a good idea for me to do this for my own financial well-being. But like I think I've done 5 full playthroughs now of Baldur's Gate 3. I was looking at my Steam account the other day, and I've got like 350 hours on BG3, I think, which is
that's not too crazy.
Depending, if you ask my wife, she'd be like, "Are you kidding me? You've wasted that much time of your life on this video game." If you ask people who play video games regularly, they're like, "Okay, yeah, that's
that's good."
And so like the idea of starting up a new campaign and like waking up on that ship and like opening your eyes and getting the tadpole and going to the beach and everything, I'm like, if I'm being honest, like that doesn't sound that fun to me right now. Like I love the game, one of my favorite games of all time, and I still might be burnt out a little bit, frankly.
Yeah.
And
but to be fair, we like you especially, we've been playing since the EA.
From alpha. Yeah, we started in alpha.
Like I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, but like we got our hands on it somehow.
Yeah.
Before even COVID.
Yeah.
It's been 5-6 years.
And so it's like, not that I would have to do a full playthrough in order to create more BG3 content, but with the new subclasses, especially, like I've been looking into them a little bit just recently. Like if you go on the BG3 wiki, you can find like what we know thus far about the subclasses and the mechanics and how they work. The Bladesinger is very different. They have this thing, like they don't get the cantrip for their extra attack, at least as far as we know. They have this thing called Blade Song Climax, Blade Song Finale, where like as you are in combat, like when you make weapon attacks, then you get like a charge for healing, and when you cast spells you get a charge for damage, and then as a bonus action you can like end your blade song, and depending on how many charges there are, like you do an AoE heal and or damage, which is, it's a cool concept, but it's very different. And so it's not like I can just go, oh, a blade singer, like I know how to do that already.
It's
like
not a
it's
one-to-one.
yeah, you know. And so I feel like if I were going to do builds for these new subclasses, like I'd need to get in and like spend a few hours like playing with them and like figuring out what's changed in the game because I haven't played for almost a year now. Like, you know, what have the more recent patches brought to it, and like and so it's just kind of like it feels very daunting to go, okay, do I want to spend a day or two like just playing with this and figuring stuff out, and then writing the script and creating the video and editing the video and all that stuff. Like
a video game video versus just a build video.
Yeah, you got to get
different
you got to get clips of your play and like work that in. So it would be a lot more work is the short answer to the question. And as a result, I'm not sure if I want to make that investment, though I am interested, I am tempted, and there are mods now, and the community is creating like additional adventures, right, where you can play, you're not playing the main story, now you're playing somebody else's module essentially, and so that's cool, and that would like kind of keep it feeling fresh, right? So I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's the short answer, but I'm not sure.
Sylvie's Forever says, I played with a Skip Nautiloid and double XP mod. Total game changer. That would definitely speed up some of the progress.
You know, and you could load up an existing save,
Sure,
and then go to Withers and just respec your character, right? And now play with it at level 8. But part of me kind of goes, if I'm going to do a build, like I want to know, you know, what's it like at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and not just 8 through 12, right?
Triat Monk has a question for you. Now that the Bladesinger is going to be able to use non-finesse weapons as well as finesse weapons, any thoughts what weapon your next Bladesinger will use?
Shadowblade. Next question. Just kidding. That's a finesse weapon. I love the idea of, I mean, and lore-wise, if I'm not mistaken, like a longsword is maybe more appropriate, right, for a Bladesinger. And I do love the idea of like a battle axe, you know, a Bladesinger with a battle axe and stuff like that. That said, it's hard to imagine something being more powerful than like short sword scimitar or you know, whatever. It doesn't have to be short sword and scimitar, but hand axe and light hammer, you know, whatever, like light weapons. And dual wielding, getting the nick property, and because you're just making more attacks. Now, more attacks aren't necessarily more damage, right? But depending on what spell you're concentrating on, they very well could be. And so, yeah, I don't know, Chris. I have been thinking about it a lot lately and trying to decide, okay, do I do like a UA Bladesinger build? And if so, what does that look like? You know, the way that they've changed the level 14 feature to not add damage to every hit, but to just let you cast a spell. If you cast a spell with an action, then you get a bonus action attack, means that, yes, for those of you who watched the live video that I did, saw me kind of figure this out live with the help of chat. You could just take your regular extra attack, and if one of those attacks is a cantrip with a casting time of a bonus action, well, now it's going to trigger that extra bonus action attack, right? So essentially you could get the advantage of the dual wielder feat without taking dual wielder, but you don't get it until level 14. And so it's like, are you really going to delay like one more attack per turn for 10 levels? So, you know, yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about it and I don't know. I might just to kind of see what it would look like, try and do like a D8 weapon build. But I don't know.
George Skinner in chat says, as it's worded, you could use a ranged weapon as a blade singer. Do you think you'd do a bow singer?
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I've actually got that on the to-do list. Now, you can't make attacks with two hands, right? So, if I'm not mistaken, it would need to be like a hand crossbow or a pistol. Because all other like bow ranged weapons are two-handed,
Yeah.
right? So
I mean, I would
a sling
assume so.
would work. You could do a thrown weapon build. And I actually kind of did that in the, gosh, what was it? It was the Blade Singer Hexblade. The Hexblade Singer build was like an Eldritch Blast / hand crossbow thing.
Strider Zesty says, Gunsinger!
Yeah. I mean, maybe, if nothing else, like I feel like I can't just do like a, hey, we're going to do another Blade Singer video, and it's like, guess what? I'm using a Shadow Blade and a Nick weapon, and it's like basically the same thing that I've already done, but it's slightly different because I can use intelligence for my attacks now. Like, that's just boring, probably to you and me, you know?
The Gunslinger, or Gunsinger is called the Freedom Slinger.
The Freedom Slinger.
The Murica Singer, yes.
Shoot.
Gosh, chat. Okay, let's go back over to Discord. Onslaught says, what is one thing you would have liked to see changed, addressed in the 24 rules that wasn't?
Oh, let's see. Gosh, I mean, I feel like I've talked about a lot of these things, and ultimately, it always just goes to like what's been on my mind most recently. So to me, that's like, I wish that beasts would have had more options for wild shape at higher level and at higher CR, and or that like moon druids especially would have gotten sort of better scaling to their attacks when they were wild shape. Maybe let them add their proficiency bonus to their hit chance or something. That might be too powerful, but anyways, or make their hit chance their like spell casting modifier, spell hit chance or something like that. I think I would have really liked to see. That said, the Moon Druid video that will come out a week from Tuesday, so in like 10 days or whatever, they do quite well. Not at tier 1, but beyond that, they're pretty potent potentially. Some of that is if you're using Conjure Minor Elementals, but not all of it. And they still do pretty well even without Conjure Minor Elementals, I think. What else do I wish would have been addressed but wasn't? You know what? I might be in the minority here. I don't like, well, and I've gone on record saying these things, so I'm just going to be repeating myself. I don't love like having to have a free hand for material and somatic components of spells. And I know that that's old school. That's been in the game forever, and maybe it's not super realistic. It was so nice. It's so nice to me when I don't have to like go, okay, wait, do I have to stow a weapon so that in case I need to cast shield, I can, and then I can draw. Like, that's just, I want every class to sort of be able to just like, look, if you're casting a spell, like, you can wave your weapon and that works like waving a wand. I don't know. Like, maybe that's just me. And yeah, the thing, like, my big pet peeve is like duration of spells. Like a 10-minute spell duration is the same thing as a 1-minute spell duration, and a 1-hour spell duration is practically the same thing as a 1-minute spell duration. Like, as far as I'm concerned, because I've so rarely personally played where I'm having like just combat encounter after combat encounter back to back where, oh, it's a good thing that the spell duration that I'm concentrating on was an hour, because now I got to take advantage of having it up for the next combat encounter. It happens sometimes, I know, and I'm sure at some tables it's more common than others. But generally I would just prefer all spell durations be like 1 minute or 1 day. And like, forget the whole like 8 hours is the
Well, and
worst.
as a DM, you're like, I don't know, like how. Okay,
What
it's
time
been-
is it? Has my
how long
mage
is this
armor
fight?
expired
Like,
yet?
It was 4 hours of in game. It was like
Yeah.
30 seconds of real
Yeah.
game. Like I don't know where we're at with it.
Like,
yeah,
let it
it's hard
be
to track.
one combat encounter, or just you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
That's me personally, and I've said that a lot, and so I'm beating a dead horse, and I'll stop now.
Right.
Those are the things that stand out to me.
You want to get a little sappy? With this
Yeah.
one? All right, we cue like piano music or something. Hey Colby, I love your videos. They've completely changed how I see D&D. I started playing about 1 to 2 years ago and wasn't fully convinced at first, but your content opened up a whole new world for me. Crunching numbers and optimizing builds is totally my thing now. I have a question about the 2024 handbook rules. I noticed all your recent builds are focused on those, which makes sense. But do you plan to occasionally release builds for 5e, 2014 rules up to Tasha's? My DM isn't ready to switch to 1D&D yet and wants to stick with the 2014 rules for now. Also, do you have any advice on how to convince my DM to let us use custom lineage or variant human? And then he gives there's context there. If you need context.
I think I wrote out an answer to that bit
Perfect.
in the channel. So if you haven't seen my response to that about custom lineage variant human, check it there. As far as the rest, thank you for the kind words. And do I plan on doing like 2014 only rules builds in the future? That's tough, right? And for the reasons that I talked about in my D&D YouTube Isn't Dying video a week ago, like the audience is already kind of split, and it feels to me like we've sort of hit the bottom of the J curve, like, you know what I mean, of 2024 and versus 2014, and like a lot of people have kind of been suffering. And I don't know, like, sorry to keep pulling you into the conversation here, Chris, but Treant Monk, I mean, I'd be interested to know if you have kind of experienced the same thing. We haven't really talked about this, of kind of like a lull or a slowdown. But anyways, it feels like we're maybe kind of coming out of that, you know, dip a little bit here. And so to go back to 2014 stuff right now feels like, oh, I might be hurting myself or shooting myself in the foot.
Treant Monk agrees. There's been a slowdown.
Yeah, okay. It's hard to know for sure. And I have thought about it. I've considered it. I might do like a, hey, here's a 2014 build that like I really wanted to do and I just never got around to. It was like at the top of my to-do list, and then 2024 came out, so I never did, kind of thing. I mean, I still have that old to-do list. It's 6 pages long. I might try one and just see how it performs, but I'm a little gun shy. I'm a little nervous of doing that because I worry that people would be like that it might screw up the algorithm. And frankly, if I'm being honest, like I did 2014 builds for 4 years.
There's a lot of content there, yeah.
And like, you know, I have 170 something builds for 2014, and you know, it gets a little tiring. You kind of feel like you've sort of exhausted most of your ideas, even though I guess I still had a lot, but you know, kind of doing the same things and wanting to play with the new toys, you know, aspect of it. So yeah, we'll see. But I would say that it doesn't feel super likely at the moment. So sorry if that makes you sad. And again, maybe I'll try it once and kind of see how it performs. But yeah, I don't think so.
We've got a question from Cade. How have UA videos been performing? It's a question for both you and Chris.
Yeah, better than I would have expected, actually. That's not something that I do a lot of typically. But recently, you know, I've done a little. I did the Artificer one, and that seems to have done like average, which is fine, which is good, you know. It's not, if it's not underperforming, I feel good about it. The Bladesinger one that I just did 2 days ago is like killing it. But maybe it's because it's me and it's Bladesingers, you know what I mean, and less that it's an interesting UA thing. I don't know. Like, I think I have a lot of existing subscribers who think of me as like the guy that they go to for Bladesinger stuff, maybe. And so, you know what I mean? Like, that's performing better than my one on the Artificers did for example. Yeah, so it's been pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to do a ton of like dedicated builds for the Unearthed Arcana, and part of the reason is because while yes, as YouTube creators, we like to kind of be talking about the latest thing that's going to get clicks because everybody's interested and it's news. At the same time, like if I look at my own analytics and like revenue, more of my revenue is coming from like my older videos than it is my newer ones necessarily. Like the new videos make more money like in the last week or 2 or 3, right? But like if you look at in aggregate the revenue that I earn month to month, like from YouTube ads, I'm going to say like maybe a third of it is from recent videos, which is a lot. And then 2/3 of it is from the other hundreds of videos that I have out there, right? That are each still making a penny or two. And so it seems to me that like what's really important to do is to create stuff that can be kind of evergreen, right? And still be interesting to somebody a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. And stuff that's just like Unearthed Arcana focused is like really interesting right now, but it's probably going to fall off a cliff 6 months from now or a year from now, right? Like very few people are going to watch that video anymore because the actual version of the Blade Singer is out now and nobody wants to watch an Unearthed Arcana version build, right? So yeah, we'll see.
I think we've got time for one more question. So let's go with like a build question. How about?
Okay.
So general thoughts. Well, I guess not necessarily build. General thoughts on cone-shaped spells and DPR viability. Seems if you're familiar with On Your Shoulder breathing upcast Dragon's Breath and you cast Burning Hands each round and could target 2 enemies, it's pretty decent even if they pass all their saves. Thoughts?
I did a build or 2 that were kind of like this, right? So if you look in my table of contents spreadsheet, sorry, my throat is very dry, that I link to in the video description of every build, and you'll find the tab that's like sustained AoE, I think it's called, sustained multi-target damage, something like that. You'll see a handful of builds, and some of them kind of try and do this. One was the Artillerist, I think. And I think the Ascendant Dragon Monk build that I did was also trying to do this. And it can be okay, depending on how many enemies you're assuming you're getting in the blast, right? But I haven't yet, anyways, found a way to make it like feel really good. It's just kind of like, okay, like that's okay, you know. I will say though, speaking of a familiar on your shoulder, you're gonna be better off as long as they can stay safe. If you can have an owl, for example, familiar or whatever, you touch them, you put Dragon's Breath on them, have them fly up in the air and be casting Dragon's Breath down, because you know, if you think about a 15-foot cone, right? Well, in a 2D world, it's that, right? But in a 3D world, a 15-foot cone put out to its maximum is going to cover like a 3x3 area on the grid, and so you're just potentially going to be able to get more enemies in the field. And I think I talk about that in one of those builds. I don't remember which one it was. But yeah, it's like it's doable. And if you can find ways, like maybe you couple it with the new, like a Dragonborn, and you know, you find something else that like has like a little AoE, and then you've got a familiar that's doing a little AoE and things like that. It can work. But then, yeah, it's like, is your familiar going to get targeted? If they're casting Dragon's Breath every round, maybe. Yeah. So now you got to worry about that. Maybe talk with your DM, you know, or let him hide in your backpack at the end of every turn or something.
Have a artificer forge tiny little owl armor for your owl.
Yeah. And how many enemies are you going to be able to get in the blast? How often is it going to be problematic where you might be hurting your allies too? Unless you're an evocation wizard, stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely, it's a fun concept to play around with. I just, I haven't yet found a way to make it like really feel like really powerful, and maybe it's out there and I just haven't figured it out yet. I guess, I don't know, but yeah.
All right. Well, it is 4. We've hit the hour.
It's 4:00. Did we get to all the questions? Did we leave anybody hanging?
There are still more questions. There are a handful more.
Let's do one more.
Okay.
Let's do one more. We always take the first few minutes to not talk about D&D stuff.
That's true.
So.
We'll pay it back to you guys at the end. Okay, let's see. Let's go with Iron Engineer. What is one build you think would be cool, but you doubt would perform for the algorithm?
Oh, like that wouldn't do well on YouTube.
Yes. And we also have another question that came in that we're going to answer because they
threw us some bones. Because it was super chat?
Yes.
Oh, man. One that I really want to do that wouldn't maybe do well on the algorithm. I mean, sadly, really, it's any like duo build, right? I do have plenty of ideas for like two people builds, like my character looks like this, your character looks like this, and together they synergize really well, right?
Right, batter in the blender.
Yeah. The mountain blade, yeah. And part of me would love to do more of those, and I get a lot of requests for them, and they inevitably perform really poorly, for whatever reason. We've talked about this before. And so, yeah, like I have thought a lot about, what if, I don't know, especially with the Moon Druid lately, actually, it's like, what if you could be like a rhinoceros and I can ride you in combat and then I take like a mount, the mounted combatant feat and like all these things. And like, wouldn't that be cool to like try and make that work? Yes. The answer is yes. And it probably wouldn't do very well. And part of the problem with those kinds of builds too is that they take a long time. They take twice as much time to like put together because I have to like build 2 characters, right? And then and so it's more work for like less reward. So I kind of have stopped doing it. I haven't done a 2 character build forever. I think the Mountain Blade was the last one that I did. So I don't know. I might get back to it one day, but it's just tough with the amount of work for the amount of return. It's just it's a bad ROI.
That's business speaking enough. Let's get back to the D&D. Saft911 with the super chat says, any unearthed arcana you wish was there?
Thanks, Saft. Oh yeah, sure. Like as far as more classes, I do wish that they would have put out one for each class, and I think they might still, right? I mean, this is an unearthed arcana. It's not like, and these are the only new subclasses that we're gonna be releasing in the near future. I wouldn't be surprised to see one in the next month or 2 or 3 that's like, okay, here's 4 more or whatever. Right. Yeah, give me the Battle Rager Barbarian. Man, those guys, so cool conceptually and so terrible mechanically, right? Give me a Kensei Monk upgrade. Give me a Shadow Sorcerer. Well, the Sorcerer's got one, so we're not going to get a new. Gosh, what else got left out? Now I'm just trying to think on the fly. We have we got fighters, we got rangers, we got rogues, warlocks. Warlocks didn't get a new subclass. So I mean, what would I like to see? Well, genie, but there's a genie paladin, so you can't do genie warlock, and they're the best subclass already. So, do something else. But yeah, those are the ones that kind of stick out to me the most. I think Battle Rager Barbarian, for whatever reason, seems really high. And actually, you know what? More than the Kensei Monk, I would want to see an updated Drunken Master.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because I just like conceptually, I like watching kung fu movies, and like, I think of like Jackie Chan's Legend of Drunken Master, so good, and I played Tekken. Was it Tekken?
Yeah.
That had that guy, the old guy that, and like the aesthetic of that fighting style, like, I think is super cool.
Yeah.
And it's so terrible mechanically, you know, in D&D that, yeah, like take some of those weaker ones. I was really happy that they turned the Purple Dragon Knight, like previously the worst probably, you know, subclass for fighters, and made it like cool and interesting and fun. I know a lot of people are complaining that like it's not lore accurate, and I can sympathize with that. I don't know, frankly, a lot about the lore of Cormyr and the Purple Dragon Knights. My sense is that they never actually had amethyst dragon pets. But it's called a Purple Dragon Knight. Like, give them a little purple dragon, and 95% of the people who play D&D don't really know the lore of the Forgotten Realms that well anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, Treant Monk's playtesting in the PDK in 2 hours.
Oh, nice.
So we'll have to let everyone know.
I've been enjoying, if you guys haven't been watching Chris's Treant Monk's videos that he's doing on the Unearthed Arcana classes, they're good. And maybe, well, if you're a patron of Treant Monk's channel, then you get those early. And so I have a hard time sometimes keeping track of what's actually been released and what hasn't. But I've been getting a lot of stuff from his channel, and yeah, he does a good analysis on them.
I'd love an official take on the samurai. Me too. That would be cool.
Yeah. I was looking just a minute ago actually at my table of contents, and I've only used the samurai fighter in one build. And it wasn't even like a real samurai. It was the poison dart frog, and he was like shooting with the blow gun. So it doesn't even really count. So yeah, I need to do like an actual samurai build. And now they're old, so I don't know if I ever will unless we get an update. So yeah, I'd like to see that too.
Well, there we go.
All right.
I think we've answered pretty much everything.
Did we make it through the list?
There's a couple carryovers, but
okay.
It's fine. We can have a few.
We'll try and get to them in February. You guys are awesome. Love you. Thank you so much for your support. I so appreciate it. And like I've been saying lately, like I really could not do this without you. Chris can attest to this. I know. Without like channel members or patrons or whatever, like, you know, we'd have to find another job. So you guys make this happen, and I'm so grateful. So thank you. Have a fantastic day. Have a great weekend, and happy February tomorrow.
Finally out of the long month.
Yes.
The long cold winter.
The long winter of our discontent.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.